Right, I'm here in the Racing Post offices with Dave Clark, Racing Post journalist, Racing Post Greyhound TV presenter, analyst, and, I'm told, punter.
Try to be. This is where the magic happens, apparently. Yes.
Thanks for letting us in here, Dave. Can we start from the very beginning? How did you get into greyhound racing?
Like many others, I'm sure, in the sport, my dad's fault. Sort of young dogs, as far back and I can remember, really 5, 6, 7 years old, being dragged originally, and then sort of you get the bug, and can remember sort of leaving school early on and heading off here, there, and everywhere, watching these dogs run, and yeah, as I say, you just get the bug and go from there.
So, what's your earliest memories of being at a dog track and actually enjoying it or not?
A bit about it was enjoyable, the first part, and then wasn't enjoyable. I remember leaving school early and driving. We drove up to Sunderland, I think it was, to watch a sprint. So sort of 15, 16 seconds. Dad had a dog in a competition, a missed break, and it was all over. So yeah, we drove sort of 4 or 5 hours up, a missed break, and 4 or 5 hours back. So yeah, it was enjoyable, of course, but that's one of my longest memories. And then Dad just sort of muttering all the way home, must be mad to be doing this, must be mad. But we did it again, of course we did, and like everyone else, I'm sure you keep coming back.
So I'm guessing that at such an early age, originally punting wasn't your main sort of fascination for it. So what was it about greyhound racing that hooked you?
I think it was the speed of the action, up close, sort of 10, 11, 12 races a night, and obviously it was being involved, obviously sort of dad owning dogs, going to the kennels on a Sunday. I would help out with kennels as well. We used to go to Peter Rich's kennel in Canterbury, amongst others, Jim Reynolds, Kim Marlowe, loads of other places. But yeah, used to help out on a Sunday down at Peter's occasionally, and yeah, just enjoyed being up close to the dogs and then sort of seeing them hit the track as well.
So what were the tracks that you went to the most back in those days?
Romford. Romford's my local track. I've always gone to Romford. Very, very few memories of Walthamstow, though I always remember it being a magical place. The big neon lights, the big crowds. There was always a buzz around the place. But still, I mean, even though I'm 30 and seen as a youngster in the sport, didn't really, it was a bit before my time, Stowe, the magical days at the Stowe.
So you are very well thought of by the top people in the game, and you're a young man. What ambitions do you have for the future for greyhound racing?
That's probably the most complimentary question I've ever been asked. You said that, Simon, not me. I am ambitious, but there isn't a role within the sport I kind of aspire to get to. I appreciate I'm in a very lucky position to be in a fun job. A lot of people, whether it be labourers on a site or staring at spreadsheets, sort of 9 to 5. You're covering sport, all sports. I do cover other sports at the Racing Post as well, namely sort of snooker and 1 or 2 others. But yeah, I'm lucky, and I'm happy the progression I'm making. 2017 was quite a big year for me. They sort of invited me onto the Sky Sports Greyhounds team, which I enjoyed working on. That's sort of a bit of a stopgap at the moment there. I'm hoping that that's gonna come back, because I think the sport needs that sort of mainstream media exposure. And I enjoyed that a lot. Travelling the country, seeing the best dogs, all the faces within the sport, and of course getting paid for it. So yeah, I appreciate that. I'm very, very fortunate, but there's been graft along the way. I've been at the Racing Post almost 10 years now, and yeah, enjoying it, still enjoying it. I'm ambitious, but there's nowhere I'm kind of aiming to specifically at the moment.
Rewinding back, when was the point that punting suddenly became a big part of it for you, and how long did it take you from knocking it out to raking it in?
raking it in. I do okay. We do okay. It's kind of been a gradual thing. I mean, anyone who makes good money out of the game now, especially those that can do it for a living, I'll take my hat off to, because it's hard. It's tough going out there to get enough on. But I was at university and I had a part-time job in a betting shop and was a casual punter, and then ended up at the Racing Post kind of as a stopgap, and I'm still here now. And it's been a gradual process of, you know, just how much you're looking into it, and watching race replays videos is massive. And I think that when that penny dropped of the importance of watching videos and re-watching videos and replays and weeks of racing, then it begins to pay dividends. But I've always said, unless you put those hours in, do not expect to make money out of the sport, because it's a hard way to make money betting on dog racing, unless you've got access to the videos and you can apply yourself.
You make it sound quite easy. Watch the videos. Now I'm sure that if we both sat down and watched a video of a dog race, you would see a lot more than I would, and you would take a lot more from it than I would. What is it you're looking for to give you an edge?
I think a lot of people can get lost in stats and records in grades and things like that, but you need to be looking at how a dog is actually running, how a dog drives a bend, what sort of racing line it takes, where does the dog look comfortable going into the bend. Something I like to look for, and really only applies to graded racing more than anything, is dogs that have run against each other in recent weeks. Because what you'll find at certain dog tracks is the pool of dogs within grades is not massive, so the same dogs can end up running against each other and against each other and against each other. And the racing manager's job is obviously they're all 6 dogs crossing on at the same time, but he has to be fair. He has to allow each dog to take their turn in winning, really. And that's a big thing really for me, is trying to spot where the racing manager is giving certain dogs a chance. And if you can spot them, then you'll do okay.
Is there very often a track bias that can vary from meeting to meeting that you have to be aware of?
This is an interesting one. We sit here in the studio. We're on 7 nights a week, 2 meetings a show, and sometimes there can be a bias. Not as often as what some people feel. I definitely think that some tracks favour the outside when it rains or it's cold, and they've had to sort of salt the track, etc. But I do feel that there are at times you might have sort of 3 or 4 trap 6s win early on a card, and then all of a sudden there's a bias when it doesn't necessarily work out like that. And a big aspect of punting is being able to identify that bias and remember it, because something drawn out wide in trap 6 could be a really good winner, but if the going was favouring the outside and you forget that there was that bias, then that form 2-3 weeks down the line when there's not a bias, can sometimes be your undoing. So for me, there aren't as many track biases as some would have you think, but be aware that there are certainly some.
Now, being a knowledgeable and successful greyhound punter, I imagine it must be pretty difficult to actually try and keep an account open if you win, because the bookmaker's going to be running scared as soon as you put a few together. Do you manage to get around that, or do you have to actually go and have it on in cash at the dogs?
The on-course game has changed massively. Only sort of 2 weeks ago I was at a track, and the on-course bookmaker there, I think we got to race 11, and it was a big night, and it'd only taken sort of 1,100 quid, and it is all online now. And the exchange is a big place. The problem in dog racing is when there's a dot on the card, a good thing. Those who can find it, sometimes I can, sometimes you miss it, but everyone wants to back the same dog, and that can sometimes be the problem. Prices can disappear very, very quickly because everyone wants to bet the same dog. So Betfair's a big thing if you're gambling on dogs, and as I mentioned, sort of getting enough on to warrant the hours that are put in to find the good things, as it were, can sometimes be frustrating. Yeah, definitely.
So how many hours would you expect to put in before each card to try and make it pay?
Well, anyone who asks me how can I make money gambling on dogs, I would always say try not to spread yourself too thin. Try and specialise at a certain track, and if you can, specialise only certain grades. I know someone who bets at Romford and would only look at sort of A4, A5 upwards. Obviously, working on RPG TV, we have sort of 2 meetings a night, and we've got sort of 6, 7, 8 tracks, and it'd be impossible to be an expert on every dog running at all of our tracks. But there are some, Toaster being one, where the videos are easily accessible through, you know, their Toaster TV, which is fantastic, and you can even watch trials, and that's somewhere that I would definitely be focusing on. But it's hard going out there. We had a track come onto the show, and I was very interested in punting there, you know, nice long run to the corner, and I thought this could be a good place for videos, and then I was quoted, I think it was £5 a race. Now if there's a 12 race card, you're looking at like £60 a meeting, 2 or 3 meetings a week, and you'd have to really make it pay. So I do think that all the videos should be accessible to everyone. I think bookmakers would see better turnover, and you know, just because everyone can watch the videos doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to find every winner. I think it'll enable people to form more of an opinion, and yeah, turnover will be good. So videos for me are a big thing. I think that everyone out there should be able to have access to the videos. We do try on our Racing Post Ground Bet app. Every race that's shown on the channel is onto the app, which kind of helps you follow the action every week, follow the dogs, any eye catchers, and what have you. But you know, without the videos, I think you're an absolute million.
You mentioned that when a good thing's spotted, everybody wants to be on. Now you assume that if everybody wants to be on, you don't get any value, so there's no value in backing them. So as a judge, what do you look for that you think other judges might have missed to give you that edge again?
It's quite tricky. As I mentioned, a lot of people can try and find bets through reading the race card, and that's not for me. I mean, I talk to people all the time at racing, and they'll say, you know, this dog is definitely going to lead. Look at the sectionals is clocking to the line, and you know, you can get a dog burst from the traps and clock a decent sectional, but you can have a dog with blinding early speed, only moderately come away, and it'll still make the corner before the dog who's burst from the traps because of that early speed. And I think that can be a lot of people's undoing, is reading off the race card. I'll bang the drum every single time I sit in this studio, and that, you know, it's an aid, of course it is. The more information available to punters, the better. But watch your videos. You have to see styles of running, see draws. You know, a race card can only tell you so much, and the race card comments from some tracks are laughable. I mean, there's one track at the moment that crowded race. You know, that's not telling anyone what's happened in a race. It just says crowded race for all 6 dogs in a race, regardless of the result. But yeah, I mean, that would be the so-called edge. I mean, I wouldn't, certainly not alone in being a video watcher, but you put someone who watches the videos against someone who bets purely off a race card or statistics, and the guy who watches the videos will fare much better, no doubt.